to this very special edition of... We need a new name, don't we? We need a new name for this show, because I feel that we're going to be doing this type of show for quite some time. Now, this particular show is going to be all based around the qualifiers, of course, as they have been. The qualifiers for England's matches and where they end up, basically. The different countries and the different cities, particularly in Europe over the next few months, and then heading out to Qatar next year towards the end of 2022 for the World Cup. Now, today it's all about the review of my trip. This has been a bit of a taster for you, and I know that there's been a number of people that have enjoyed my experiences over the last few days, and I think it's safe to say that we'll be doing this very, very soon again. Now, in October, we'll hopefully be heading out to Andorra, I should say. I'm a little bit tired from last night's escapades. More on the Andorra stuff in just a little bit. But, as the title suggests, this is about Budapest and, of course, Warsaw, which is where we've been. We also went back to London over the weekend for the England match as well. A home game against Andorra. But mainly this, of course, City Explorer focused on Budapest and Warsaw, which is where I am right now. I'm actually currently in the lobby of a hotel. The hotel is the Hotel Ibis. It's a budget hotel. Now, for any frequent travellers out there, you probably would have heard about the Ibis. The Ibis Hotel is well known all across Europe and in many different parts of the world, including America and in Asia as well. Now, they have different versions of the Ibis Hotel. You have the Ibis Styles, which is actually next door. Now, the Ibis Styles is usually a themed place. I actually stayed in an Ibis Hotel over in Budapest. Now, that was a Styles themed area. It was actually based on video gaming. So that was the first place that we stayed in Budapest. It's slightly more expensive, one of those themed areas. You also get the budget style, which is the one we're staying in right now. This is a bit more basic. So with the budget Ibis hotels, you get your room, you get a shower, you get your general amenities. It's a lot smaller. You get a smaller room just for the toilet in your very, very small little cabin area. It's a bit like a box room. And your shower and sink area is combined in an open plan type of area. Perhaps I'll show it to you later or some other time on another live stream about Ibis hotels. And I feel like it's probably quite a good thing to explore, actually, for those of you that are travelling. But it's more of an open plan type of room here, the Ibis hotels, with the budget style. They also have the standard Ibis. So when you see a standard Ibis hotel that doesn't have styles or budget attached, that's more their general type of hotel. Those are pretty much the most expensive ranges. You can also have premium rooms as well, of course, and certain upgrades. But the budget ones are great, and if you're travelling or you're backpacking, the Ibis budget ones are very reasonable, particularly here in a place like Warsaw. Now, per night, this is actually costing me approximately £25 a night, roughly. So it's very, very reasonable for what you get. You pay extra for breakfast as well, but you get free Wi-Fi included with that. And there are also extra amenities that you can pick up from reception for free, which you might not know about, and you can always try your luck. This is something I found out about this on this trip, which I hadn't explored before. Let's say you have a shirt and it needs to be ironed, which is a common theme, of course, when you're taking your clothes away with you and you want to go travelling. You want to look nice when you go on a night out. It might be that you bring a shirt with you. I did that. Very creased, of course, when you get it out of the bag. However, you can just ask reception, I think, in most hotels, can I borrow an iron? And of course, here at the Ibis Hotel, they did indeed have that. So that's a good tip for you backpackers out there. Borrow an iron from reception if your room doesn't actually have one. I'm sure they will do. You can also borrow other things like kettles and things too, if you want to do so. Some hotels will offer that. Now, some hotels, particularly more if we're talking about Ibis, for instance, an Ibis Styles hotel, or an Ibis General hotel, I should say, the chances are they will probably have a kettle in the room with teas and coffees already part of that and part of your room. Now you don't have that with the budget, so again you're kind of spending a little bit more. So for example, I've got myself a cup of tea here, which I was able to get from the vending machine at the lobby. Cost me sorry for that slight technical hitch, we're back. It cost me £1. We're talking about tea. It cost me £1 here in Warsaw at the Ibis Budget Hotel for my cup of tea. So it cost me five zlotys, which is the currency they have out here in Poland. So you have 5 zlotys for every pound. I love the way it sounds when you say zloty. I think I make it sound more Russian than Polish, but still. The best thing you can do when you're backpacking is use a comparison site, I think, when you're looking at booking hotels, because you could use booking.com, Airbnb for instance. Airbnb is slightly different, although they do hotels now, but you could use like booking.com, hotels.com perhaps, Expedia, or a number of other types of comparison sites. And by doing that, not only will you bring up the best prices, but they will also give you a rundown, a very detailed list of what will be included. It's always worth taking your time to research when it comes to looking at what's included in your hotel and your package in your room, because there might be certain things which you might just consider to be standard, and then you get to the hotel and it isn't. For example, you might consider a checkout time of 10 or 11 o'clock to be standard. If you book a budget hotel, for instance, you might find, as I have experienced in some places, an earlier checkout time. Now, if you go on a night out, for instance, and you find that checkout time is a lot earlier than you would have expected it to be, you might then think, oh, I've gone on a night out, I haven't got a late flight, I haven't got to get up until later because I've got a late flight, I haven't got to leave my hotel till late. And they might offer an option, well, you can spend, if you spend an extra, let's say £10 for the English out there, or just a few more dollars or euros, you can extend your checkout time for an hour or 2 or 3 hours. And that might seem like a good idea at the time, because you go, oh, well, for an extra £10, I'll check out a little bit later. But then, of course, if you've booked a budget hotel based on the fact that it's a budget hotel, you're saving yourself money, particularly if you're backpacking for a long period of time or travelling for a long period of time, then you're losing out on money. And so then it's not really worth it, because you're spending that bit of extra money. And it's quite a clever little scheme they have in place in some of these budget hotels. It's not here at the Ibis Budget here in Warsaw. It's the checkout time, I believe, is 11, I think. Can't remember that. And the reason I can't remember is because I have to check out really early tomorrow morning, because my flight's really early. I haven't checked that. Which does bring me on to another point, actually, about just doing your research. Do your research. Research is all about research when it comes to travelling. The more research you can do before your trip, the better. Research currency. Work out how expensive things are going to be in a particular area. Work out the exchange rates. See whether it's better to pick up some money, some currency, before you leave or after. I'd always suggest having some currency. I think that's something I've learned. Always having some currency on you, local currency, just for small things. Maybe it's just for a bottle of water. Just a little bit, pick up a little bit from home before you come out, because it might be that you have a card on you, but you could be charged a transaction fee by your bank, for instance, if you use your debit card abroad. So it might be better just to have some small currency on you before you come out. But I have noticed that in certain countries, it's cheaper to exchange your money when you come out to them. And I've certainly found that in Budapest and in Warsaw. It's been better to exchange my currency at the local banks. The exchange rates were better. Now, you will need your home currency to do this. So not a card. You will fare better if you bring your currency out with you in cash. So in my incidents, it would have been better to bring out cash, British cash, GBP, to actually have £20 notes and £10 notes and exchange them at the local banks in Budapest and out here in Warsaw and Poland. So that's a good suggestion for you. As I have already mentioned, and for those of you that have seen an earlier broadcast here on City Explorer, you will, and if you haven't seen it, you can actually go back, have a look on YouTube, go back onto the City Explorer site. It might be that you're already watching this on YouTube. Have a look at some of the previous episodes and you'll be able to go through. But it might be an opportunity to take a look at some of the things that I've been talking about when it comes to travel. So travel here, for instance, in Warsaw, it's very, very reasonable and very, very cheap. So as I mentioned a few days ago, I've been able to get around the city on varying types of transport here in Warsaw. Now Warsaw is very useful when it comes to multiple choices of public transport, and that will save you time and potentially a lot of money instead of using taxis. Now taxis are quite reasonable too, and they also run Uber and Bolt out here, which are two of the main European taxi providers out here. And of course, very useful when it comes to having a mobile phone. Just make sure it's always charged up because you want those apps available. And it also makes things a lot safer because you can see who's coming. You can see on your app who's coming. You can see the price you're going to pay beforehand. Very, very useful. A side note, if you do use a taxi, and this applies to anywhere in the world, if you use a taxi and it just happens to be a taxi that you've picked up off the street, make sure that it has a meter running, okay? It might be that you see a meter is available in a taxi, but they don't switch it on. I've experienced this quite a lot actually out in a place like Asia, so perhaps Thailand or Philippines, something like that, and they won't put the meter on. And so when you arrive at your destination, they'll just tell you how much it costs. Very, very common for people to take advantage of tourists, for taxi drivers out there. So always make sure that they have a meter, and two, that it's running, just to make sure. They used to have an issue here out in Warsaw, I believe, with that, but they've actually sort of rained down on that now and made sure that that's something that's happening. So it's commonplace for their meters to be running. Of course, you won't need to have that if it comes to an Uber. They won't have a meter or a Bolt, so you'll be able to see the price before you hire the car, which is great. But it's very reasonable nonetheless. You know, as I said a few days ago, I got an Uber from the airport to the hotel, about a 20-minute drive, and it cost me about £8. It was, I think, so not much at all. Very, very reasonable. But still, public transport is still cheaper. Now, as I said, the public transport here in Warsaw, you have a system which operates trains, trams, and buses. And you can use the same tickets on all of them, which is great because it means, depending on where you are and what will be most direct to your destination, you could use any one of these and you could use the ticket on the same services. And I love that. Now, in London, we do have something similar, but it's not quite the same. And of course, we don't have a tram system in London. Now, you will find, and what I found that has been most cost effective, is using a ticket that's allowed me 24-hour usage. They have varying different ticket availabilities, different services. You can get a 3-day ticket, you can get different short-term tickets, you can get what's known as 20-minute tickets out here actually, which I believe is that you have to use it within 20 minutes. I think you have to scan it within 20 minutes. I think you have to scan it before you get on the transport. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't experienced that just yet. But with the ticket that I've had, a 24-hour ticket allows me to 24 hours usage of that ticket on any of the transport, the train, the bus or the tram. Very, very useful. And it only costs 15 zloty, which I love the word. I don't even know if I have to pronounce it so distinctly, but I love pronouncing it and I'm never going to stop pronouncing it as zloty. It definitely sounds more Russian when I say it, I swear. 15 zloty, and that is £3. And remember what I said, 5 zlotys for every pound. So, which is quite an easy conversion to make, isn't it? So 15 zlotys, £3. That will allow you unlimited usage on the transport system here in the city of Warsaw. That's Zone 1. that you have to spend a little bit more to have Zone 2 included. So think about if you're used to London, those of you that are from London or have visited London and you're used to travelling around London, think of zones 1 to 6. It's a similar narrative. There are 2 zones here in Warsaw. It's a similar narrative. We have some zones 1 to 6 in London, don't we? But it's similar based on that in terms of cost. So that's been one of the most useful things that I've had out here. There's one thing which I'm trying to have tonight. My flight takes off tomorrow at about 6 o'clock. I've got a very early flight. I've been up all night for the past 2 nights, so I'm going to make it a third, hopefully, so that I can actually hopefully get off in the morning with a flight. I do need to go and pick up an antigen test at the airport, so that will cost me about £40. That's a couple of hundred zlotys. But I need to catch my early flight at 6 o'clock. There's one thing I definitely want to try and do, because I said I was going to do it before I came out here, and I've been advised to try it, and that is pierogi. Pierogi, I like dumplings, and I'm going to try that tonight. I've been instructed to go to a certain location. I'm going to try to go to a restaurant nearby that serve it. Pierogi is like dumplings, and they contain all sorts of things, savoury normally, but they also have dessert versions out here now, which is popular. They also have, I forget the name of it, one of their most popular snacks out here is like a pizza, but it's on a baguette, half a baguette. They have cheese on it, they have mushrooms on it, a bit of tomato sauce. I had it in a match last night, a very popular cuisine for half-time food. Very nice. That's enough about Warsaw very, very quickly. I do want to mention about Budapest, and I will talk about Budapest in a future stream, I think. But Budapest was an interesting city. I found Budapest quite in need of an uplift. I don't want to be too disrespectful. London has lots of raw elements to it as well. I think that's a fair word. I found Budapest to be very raw and in need of an upgrade in certain places. It was a fascinating city to visit. I think that from just my own experience of a very few days based in each city, I found Warsaw to be a lot cleaner and a lot more updated in most of the city. And I found that there was a lot more graffiti in Budapest, just from first impressions. Budapest had some interesting tourist areas. I found more tourist areas in Budapest than in Warsaw in my very few days. I found that Budapest had more nightclubs, more venues to visit than I have found out here. I also found that Budapest had their thermal spas. I found Budapest a little bit more interesting to visit for just a few days. If you're going for a few day break, just on my own experience and just on what I've experienced based on my own research and very, very small pieces of time that I've spent out in Budapest and in Warsaw, I would pick Budapest for a weekend break. I think that's what I have picked out on, and that might not be, as I say, that's just my own very, very small experience, and it might be on another weekend. And had I not come out here for the primary reasons of football and working out here for football, then my experience may well have been different. And I'm sure there are people out there that are watching this right now that will say, no, Warsaw is so much better than Budapest. Or there are people saying Budapest is so much better for a break than Warsaw. It's very much down to individuality and what it is that you're after. But Budapest was great for thermal spas, to visit that, and I had a little go on that. I found that very interesting indeed. So it's definitely worth exploring that and seeing what you find about Budapest. To go and have a look at the thermal spas, go and have a look at some of the clubs that are out there, and again the local cuisine, the Hungarian cuisine out there. There's some culture in Budapest to see. Of course, there's a lot of different Hungarian food available out there, so it's worth looking at that. It's just a very interesting city to go and see. So I can certainly see myself coming back to Budapest in the future, coming back to Warsaw and Poland, and there's a lot more to explore than just Budapest and Warsaw in each country. Poland has many areas. Gdansk is somewhere which I would love to see at some point in the future. And of course, the Auschwitz, a very difficult area to go and visit, something that will definitely give you some considerations. Now that's near Krakow in the south of the south of Poland. That is definitely something worth going to have a look at, and I'd love to see that at some point in the future. So I think that sort of experience is something that a lot of people should do. I think it's would be something you'd be very mindful of when you're in that type of area. I've been to places like Ypres in Belgium, where you see the hundreds and hundreds of graves, the memorials in Ypres towards all the soldiers that lost their lives back in the war, and I think it's just really liberating to see that kind of thing, and very humbling. And I think a very humbling experience would be had out in Auschwitz. So I definitely would love to see that at some point in the future. Perhaps you've been to Auschwitz, and maybe if you've been to there, or you've been to your own cities, or perhaps you're exploring yourself right now. Maybe you're in a city and you're thinking, do you know what, I could do what Steve's doing. I could be a city explorer. Jump on board. Come on board, City Explorer. We would love to have you. Excuse me, it's been a long couple of weeks and I'm very tired. We would love to have you out here with us at City Explorer. So jump on board if you fancy getting on board with City Explorer. We would love to speak with you. We'd love to explore your own experiences. So talk to us and share your experiences with the rest of the world, because I'm sure there's many of you out there right now that's watching that's saying, yeah, I could do this too. So feel free to jump on board. We'd love to see you. Now, just one more thing. I am wearing, as you might notice, I've been very brave. I'm not sure I'm going to be brave enough to walk out into Warsaw wearing this. I think I might do. This is an England away shirt. I think it's a great shirt. I didn't dare wear this yesterday to the match, of course, as those of you that saw last night's stream will be aware of. I wore a Poland shirt last night to the National Stadium in Warsaw, the match that ended 1-1 between England and Poland. A very fair result. I think it was a very fair result because it wasn't a great match, but all fans went home happy, which was great. I think probably Polish fans went home happier than the England fans, particularly because they scored their last-minute goal. But it was great to see that. So I don't think I will have too many issues wearing this today, because they had a good result against England. So I think they'll be fine. So maybe I'll go to the supermarket wearing this and be brave in a bit and wear my England colours with pride. One final thing I want to mention about Andorra. So as mentioned, next month, it's in October, we have 2 matches. We will be visiting either Andorra or Barcelona. Now it hopefully will be in Andorra, very small Spanish country, near Spain anyway, and it may well be moved to Barcelona due to COVID, potentially. We're not sure yet, but we'll hopefully get out there. So we'll be doing a stream there in Andorra. And also we'll be back at Wembley in London for England versus Hungary. Hungary will be coming over to visit England for another World Cup qualifier too. We're getting to the latter end of the stages of qualification. There'll be November to play. We've got San Marino and Albania coming up in November too, which will complete the qualification process. England are right on target to qualify. I can't see it being any other result than England qualifying at the top of their group, and there'll be a fight for second place between at the moment Albania in second place, doing very well in this qualification period, and then you have Hungary and Poland Poland and Hungary, I should say, in third and fourth respectively. So there's all to play for. There's only 10. Albania are on 12 points, Poland are on 11, and Hungary are on 10 points. So it's all to play for in the final few games for places in next year's World Cup out in Qatar. So join me again very soon for another City Explorer. We're only a few weeks away from Andorra. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. And if you have any comments, if there's anything you want to see, any cities, any countries you want to visit via City Explorer, and that's the benefit of technology. Thanks to City Explorer, you too can sit at home in your own armchair and you can visit all these different countries and all these different cities around the world without stepping outside your front door. You can just pick up your phone or pick up your computer and watch it live on screen and experience it live. So, from me, Steve Hopper, here out. Oh dear, technology's letting us down today, isn't it? So, from Steve Hopper here in Warsaw, thank you so much for visiting. Thank you so much for visiting City Explorer. Thank you for joining us here on our streams. Thank you for visiting here, Budapest, and of course, here in Warsaw, in Poland. We'll see you again very, very soon. Get in touch if you fancy being a City Explorer, or just check out City Explorer on all of our social media pages, and I will see you again very, very soon.